In the prolonged self-reflection of quarantine, I grew to think about the nature of the world and what right and wrong means. Is it acceptable to hurt someone or something if you know a positive reaction will come from it? Is it bad to help someone or something that would continue to be hurtful to others after you helped it? And all this philosophy, no doubt a little inspired by The Good Place, which you have no reason to be watching this instead of, has led me to do a little more research on history and anthropology. A further understanding of us as a species, our diversity and uniformed nature, guides us to be better people and make better decisions. This journey started for me by researching my home country of Australia and the original migration and culture of Aboriginal Australians. In just the month and a half I've done this research, I've learned so much, and yet the predominant thing I know is just how little I know. My interest in researching humans, no matter where or when, will no doubt take the rest of my life, and that is a journey I'm excited to make. Because philosophy is really important to me. It makes me ask myself the difficult questions with unclear and debatable answers. Questions like, is it ethical to improve yourself with the motivation of being a better person? Or is it only ethical to improve yourself with the intent of improving the quality of life output you provide to the rest of the world? Well, I would argue that the self and the surrounding are linked, as the outside world will influence who we are, as one ethical action will somehow be received as outside influence by someone else, influencing the way they live, and so on and so forth. Because the truth of the idea of the self and the idea of the external is that the external is simply made out of numerous individual selves, all bouncing off of each other in society. This means any intent to improve yourself is valid, whether it be for your own sake, because both will receive the benefits of your improvement. This kind of questioning makes you feel more comfortable, more grounded to the world around you, because you feel connected to it. You know how you feel, and that sense of closure brings in a sense of robust self-identity, which is why I honestly recommend philosophy to everyone. The trolley problem isn't just a cliché. It's a fun mind experiment to really question who you are as a person and how you see all of it as an image. For example, I think that the incentive to not switch tracks and let 5 people die, being a decreased responsibility for the deaths, is a load of BS. Because choosing not to save anyone when you have full knowledge and capability in the scenario is indistinguishable from killing them, and it is just as much a decision as switching the tracks. I could certainly go on, because there is a never-ending list of hypotheticals and interpreted meaning across the world, and I may even make a full video on it. But for today, I want to focus on just one question that no 2 people agree on, because it pulls on everyone's different perspectives of definition. Is a hot dog a sandwich? There are 2 main perspectives on this argument, one being that a hot dog is a sandwich, and others claiming that it is a hamburger. Now, it is certainly possible that a hamburger is simply its own independent thing, but the truth is, in this world that is too dense to understand nuance or spectrums, we will sit and argue about black and white categories to ignore our fear of self-identity, so it needs to be something. Let's dive into the sandwich argument. The primary debate that a sandwich is specifically designed as bread containing meat, which is an accurate enough description of a hot dog. However, primary counters to this argument mention the amount of bread slices as a defining part of the sandwich, and since a hot dog has a bun that is a simple piece of bread, it may not constitute a sandwich. However, its native form may not fit into the definition of a sandwich, but what we are looking for is any instance where the definition of a hot dog overlaps with the definition of a sandwich. I think we can all agree if the Venn diagram definition of hot dog is mostly inside the definition of sandwich, then it is acceptable to call it a sandwich, even if its base form does not meet the criteria. So, is it possible to have a variety of situations where there is something that is both a hot dog and a sandwich simultaneously? Well, the answer is yes. Because if we imagine a hot dog bun being split down the middle lengthwise, we now have two pieces of bun bread. And if you place the hot dog between the two, it is definitely still a hot dog. I think we can all agree on that, right? So we are capable of making a hot dog with two pieces of bread wrapped around it, rather than one. So the quantity of bread pieces is no longer as obvious of a definitional difference. But this discrepancy is also true of a sandwich. The natural state of it is to have two slices of bread, but I would make the claim that it is possible for a sandwich to have only one piece of bread in it. If a sandwich is grilled shut, it's still a sandwich. Having a grilled cheese sandwich can result in the bread slices heating up and melding together on the edges. Boom, you have got one piece of bread wrapped around the contents, but it's still a sandwich. And there's more. A double thick slice of bread cut halfway and meat inserted, then it could still be a sandwich, leading to further evidence that we cannot claim that a hot dog isn't a sandwich simply due to the pieces of bread involved. Which was always to be expected. Substances and quantity have a weird relationship. If you break a rock in two, you don't have two halves of a rock, you have two rocks. Some food counts as substance here. So you can't just ask for one bread, you have to say a slice or a loaf. And if that substance can be attached to another example of itself, like through many baking techniques, then you'll no doubt walk the tightrope between one object or two. So saying one bread or two being what makes a hot dog not a sandwich is ungrounded, but now we have to be good debaters and look at the other side of it. A hot dog is not a sandwich, because the name sandwich comes from a place called Sandwich. In 1762, John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, popularized the meal, and since hot dogs originated from the 1800s German immigrants to America, they don't come from Sandwich, and thus don't count as sandwich food. Am I trending yet? A similar structure of argument is applicable for hamburgers, but with a small variety of different qualifiers. The main point of a hamburger is the type of bread that surrounds it. Buns are the name for it. So all we need to do is see if hot dogs have buns, and what do you know? They do. So that's another mark for the hamburger argument. Well, well, well. It would seem that a hamburger is not a sandwich. Interesting. It's amazing the kinds of things you can learn by actually doing research when you're 6 or 7 minutes into a boring conversation about hot dogs. Thanks, Google. So, hamburgers and sandwiches are apparently different according to the internet, and the main difference is indeed the bread. At first, I thought it would just be a variation, but it's actually an entirely different food. So if buns are that important, and we've established that hot dogs have buns, then we have a solid basis to say that the hot dog is more of a hamburger than it is a sandwich. And the hamburger is compatible with all the hypotheticals I mentioned about a sandwich only having one piece of bread. And to add to it, the main argument against saying that a hot dog was a sandwich was the origin of the name sandwich, like how anime is only from Japan, or how Scotch is only from France. We have a good thing going here. We correctly identified the similarities between a hot dog and a sandwich and made a case for and against. Then, using those arguments, we found a better fit in the form of a hamburger, which is void of the argument against with the name, and an extra argument in the positive with the buns situation. That's probably the least sexy time someone has ever said the buns situation. So, is the problem done? Have we sorted out if a hot dog is a hamburger or a sandwich? Yes, we have determined that it is a hamburger. But that doesn't mean there isn't a better third option. That is the option of the taco. Yes, you heard me. A hot dog is a taco, and I will stand by this argument in the face of any adversity. Let me explain myself. A taco is the result of placing meat within a single piece of bread that is wrapped around indeterminate meats and covered with condiments and cheese and sauces. Tacos are held and consumed with one hand, same as hot dogs, whereas hamburgers and sandwiches are both two-handed foods. Plus, let's not kid ourselves. Of course, a hot dog is not a sandwich or hamburger. The shapes of the foods are entirely incomparable, to the point where we literally refer to folding paper in two different ways as hamburger style or hot dog style. While some sandwiches are long in shape, like a foot long, we've already cleared that between the taco, hamburger, and sandwich is at the bottom of the familiarity chain, and there's unfortunately no such thing as a foot-long hamburger, so the existence of a foot-long shaped sandwich doesn't efficiently place sandwich above taco in similarity to hot dog, especially when tacos and hot dogs are exclusively in a lengthwise shape, and sandwiches can be either or, and hamburgers are exclusively cube-esque in shape. This may have been the stupidest and funnest video I've ever made, but it is true that I love philosophy, and things like this are extremely fun to me, so maybe I'll do more dumb rambles of ideology. It's not like this video is going to get insanely less views than others.